We penned this down sometime in 2017, about a year into our launch. We said we want to build something for every Indian. We don't want every Indian who's interested in doing digital payments. We wanted to build something that every Indian will use. The every part of it was very important. My co-founders and I had already worked at Flipkart for 3 or 4 years, so we'd seen the e-commerce sort of rocket ship. But e-commerce was reaching maybe 10, 15 crore Indians. We felt that payments, if digitized, could start a virtuous cycle of formalization of the economy in a way where we could dedicate 10, 20, 30 years of our lives in a very, very substantial and exciting way. And I'll share some data with the audience, and hopefully you'll sort of agree. The session just before this, somebody talked about how India's progress started with UPI. We'll share some numbers there. What a transformation that's been. But the idea here is we want to make sure that no one's left behind. Everyone's progress should start getting liberalized. Everyone should have equal access to money and then to services, all sorts of financial services, goods, other digital services. And the best way to start is by making sure everyone has digital payments. So where are we today? You could go to the next one. Allow me to share with you, in partnership with Map My India, another Indian startup, a heat map of real transactions by Indian consumers over the last 8 years. 99% of these are on UPI, by the way. If you just see the length and breadth of the country today is using digital payments. This has happened in 8 years. In sheer reach, we are now at over 50 crore users, and this is PhonePe alone. I'm sure that digital payments reaches even more. There's other players in the market. But just look at that journey. Let's go to the next one. In terms of merchants, and please note on the top left, you'll see when COVID happens, people start small businesses in the hinterland, you'll see the entire map light up. There is not a nook and corner in the country that does not accept digital payments now. This is happening in real time. And the first and second and third order impact of those digitization revolutions that are happening are visible. I'll show you just one more. So people know that PhonePe processes payments. This is a heat map of how insurance premiums are being paid on PhonePe. Just notice it's on a lag. You saw with the consumers, everything's red and really, really big numbers. Insurance is starting to grow that way. Digital lending is growing. So the penetration that we've made with payments and the data that's come out of it is allowing banks and insurers and AMCs to build products for the masses in a way that was unimaginable, honestly, 10 years ago, right? And that's the animal instincts of entrepreneurship and industry that we as a company want to sort of unleash. If you go to the next one, I think this is the humbling part. As much as we believe we've done good work in the last 8 to 10 years, our vision is to actually democratize progress for 1 billion Indians. Technology should allow us to reach there. Telecom has gotten there. Everyone's got data. Everyone's got YouTube. But as of today, we remind ourselves, we've just got to about 40% of Indians. Now, this data, for economists in the audience, this is our extrapolation of the tiering in India. It's 80-90% accurate. Our own data is accurate. As you can see, the penetration of digital payments in India started with the metros, started with the big cities. Most people sitting in this audience would all be using a PhonePe or perhaps a GPay or a Paytm or some other app. That penetration by COVID end had got to every city in tier 2. But the remarkable thing that actually happened during the pandemic is that revolution actually also reached our villages. Tier 6 cities are cities with 5,000 or less people. Tier 2 and below is about 70% of India. We're making progress, but we have miles to go. And I think that's our first North Star. We want to make sure that at least in payments, if not in other categories, we are able to light up India coast to coast, pillar to post, right? So 40% is where we are at. We have lots to cover. So let's talk about how we think, or how we're going about trying to build a great company. Building great products in the startup world, we all use them, we like them, but one of the unfortunate things in the last couple of decades is durable multi-generational companies have stopped getting created. All of us can think about that really good app that we used 20 years ago that exists no more, whether it's a Yahoo that gets replaced with a Google, whether it's a MySpace that gets replaced with a Facebook. The longevity of companies has gone down. One of the things that we are trying to do, we started, before we figured out what PhonePe would do, given that we were starting the company a little later, we were almost 40, Rahul, myself. Our third co-founder is actually based in the US, but he was building because his father, who's no longer with him, told him to build for India. So he was one of those NRIs that was being talked about earlier today. He wanted to build. We had learnings. And we said, let's build a company which has a foundation very deeply rooted in culture and values, learn from the Tatas and the Infosys and the sort of stalwarts of the industry. So what we actually have is a pretty elaborate set of culture and values that kids hate. We literally indoctrinate them. These are written on every building in our office. You get them with your orientation kit. We make you rehearse them as much as you can. But they're sacred to us because they remind us whether you're doing well or you're not, whether the markets are good or they're not. These remind us the mission that we are on. These remind us the kind of company we want to create. And I didn't put heat to it when I was building my first startup. We made money, we got users, but the company did not have a binding value system that made us navigate issues, market changes, pandemics and whatnot. I think as you sort of make your early mistakes and become a serial entrepreneur, one of the things that you really learn to treasure is institution building. And so one of my favorite ones in this is at the bottom left. We call it positive disruption. It's very, very personal to PhonePe. We talk about the fact that we will not disrupt somebody's profit pool just because we can. We will increase the size of the pie of any market we enter. Otherwise, we will not enter. Now, why is that important? Everyone's talking about the economy in terms of macros. 2 trillion, 3 trillion, 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 50 trillion. These things don't happen in macros. You can track them in macros, but they happen at the grassroots in terms of compounding in daily lives. So you got to create enablers. And if you take capital in the startup world, we see this all day long. One of the realities is that if there's a really exciting market opportunity, 50 venture capitalists and 100 good entrepreneurs will chase it, and margins go to zero, and you're cutting each other instead of creating. One of the things we love about India Stack and DPI is things like UPI open up markets, things like Account Aggregator open up markets. So we work very closely with them. The other thing that I think from personal sort of experiences, I love sports. I grew up playing a lot of sports, and I got most of my learnings in life through sports. Whether you play cricket, football, individual sports, teamwork and loyalty and a good mix of talent is super important. One of the things that you will see here and on the next slide is we are a 9-year-old company. The founders have known each other for 27 years. Burzan and I have known each other for 20 years. The average tenure of the people working together in this company at the leadership is actually longer than the company itself has existed. Many of us are doing a second or third tango together. Now, why is this important in the PhonePe journey? One of the benefits you have of working with people that you've known for a long time is that you can fight and argue all day long about ideas and no one gets hurt or upset. It's like family. You just hold a mirror and say, this is the right way to do it. No one's building careers, everyone's mission oriented. If they were building careers, they'd be worrying about how the other person thought about what you said. How does this look to my boss? We've all been there. And we said, you know what, let's not do that. So culturally, I think this is a very big element of PhonePe. And this flows down. We do a lot of things unconventionally. Some that drive even some of our former investors and board members crazy. We don't do written calibration at the leadership. We don't do quarterly and annual evaluation and grading. I find that counterproductive. We give each other feedback every day. But we don't do it in writing and grade you and slot you into a bucket or do curve fitting. I think it destroys mission orientation. So at PhonePe, we bring in people that we believe are interested in solving for 1 billion Indians. That's it. As long as you're interested and you're talented, everything else falls in line.